Did you know that the story of Joseph and Oliver receiving the priesthood didn't happen the way you think it did?
Mormon tradition records that on May 15, 1829, John the Baptist gave the Aaronic priesthood to Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery on the banks of the Susquehanna River. Later, at an unspecified date, the apostles Peter, James, and John gave them the Melchizedek priesthood. These two events are the pillars on which the Mormon Church stands. Without it, the Church holds little difference to any other religion. The Mormon Church teaches that all proper authority was lost, but that these angelic visitations gave them, and only them, the proper power from God. In order for the Church of Jesus Christ to hold such authority, one must expect that this priesthood was given before the Church was organized on April 6, 1830.
However, this is not the case. Before I go into the timeline on the Priesthood Restoration, I wanted to show you some quotes from members of the Church and from Church historians concerning this matter.
In his pamphlet, An Address to All Believers in Christ, David Whitmer, one of the three witnesses, states that the teaching concerning the priesthood were first introduced into the Church almost 2 years after it was organized. William McClellan, one of the early 12 apostles, said, "I joined the Church in 1831. For years I had never heard John the Baptist ordaining Joseph and Oliver. I heard not of James, Peter, and John doing so." And sometime later he repeated that, "I never heard of it in the Church for years." Church historian Grant Palmer admits accounts of angelic ordinations from John the Baptist and Peter, James, and John are in none of the journals, diaries, letters, or printed materials until the mid-1830s. Lamar Peterson also stated, "There seems to be no support for the historicity of the restoration of the priesthood prior to October 1834. Mormon historian D. Michael Quinn also informed us that men were first ordained to the higher priesthood over a year after the Church's founding. No mention of angelic ordinations can be found in original documents until 1834 and 1835. Even Church historian B. H. Roberts, in Volume 1 of the History of the Church, admits that there is no definite account of the event in the history of the prophet Joseph, or for that matter, in any of our annals. And Richard Bushman, author of Rough Stone Rolling, said, "The late appearance of these accounts raises the possibility of later fabrication."
Okay, so now that we've established that the priesthood actually didn't appear until the mid-1830s, let's go over the timeline.
The Book of Mormon, published in 1830, is absent of any mention of the Aaronic or Melchizedek priesthood. Additionally, in 1830, Joseph Smith published a Revelation on Church Government, in which there was also no mention of either priesthood. Even in the Articles of the Church of Christ, written in June of 1829, there is still no mention of the Aaronic or Melchizedek priesthood. In 1831, when Lucy Mack Smith wrote a letter to her brother encouraging him to join the Church, she makes no reference to the angelic visits giving Joseph Smith and Oliver the priesthood. Even in her own history, she fails again to mention the restoration of the priesthood by John the Baptist and Peter, James, and John. Instead, she records, "One morning, Joseph and Oliver were translating in 3rd Nephi in the Book of Mormon. The first thing that presented itself to Joseph was a commandment from God that he and Oliver should repair to the water, and each of them be baptized. They immediately went down to the Susquehanna River and obeyed the mandate given them. They had now received authority to baptize." Then later, in 1833, when the Book of Commandments was printed, there was again no mention of these ordinations or priesthoods. 1834 is the first time these angelic priesthood ordinations is recorded. On September 7, 1834, recorded in the Messenger and Advocate, Oliver recounts that, "From his, Joseph's hand, I received baptism, by the direction of the angel of God, the first received into this church in this day."
Notice that Oliver is only referring to one angel. Also, in David Whitmer's pamphlet, An Address to All Believers in Christ, he attributes the priesthood to Sidney Rigdon. But that's for another video. Here, it seems like Oliver Cowdery is the one who comes up with the angelic priesthood ordination. But why does he do that? Well, let's look at another source.
On December of 1834, Joseph and two of his counselors, Sidney Rigdon and Frederick G. Williams, assembled for the purpose of ordaining Oliver Cowdery to the office of assistant president, which would rank him second only to Joseph Smith. The angel is referenced as having promised Oliver to this station when he and Joseph were ordained to the priesthood.
So even though Oliver helped translate the Book of Mormon and he was the first person baptized into the church, he wasn't very high ranked. So instead, he pulls this out of his sleeve, saying that the angel promised Oliver that he would be second to Joseph. Just feels a little sus. Also, two more things don't make sense.
If Joseph was ordained to the high priesthood in 1829, why would he again be ordained in 1831 by Lyman White? Also, all of the scriptures referencing the Melchizedek and Aaronic priesthood were retroactively fitted into the Doctrine and Covenants. If Joseph and Oliver had truly been ordained in 1829, why didn't they include this ordination in the original text?
To me, it seems more likely that Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery came up with this story of angels ordaining them to the priesthood to give themselves more credibility.